All right, welcome back to the Bring Your Big Energy podcast. Today, I'm going to start with a question. What's one thing that you've never said out loud because you were afraid of what might happen if you did? You were afraid that people wouldn't understand. You were afraid that they'd judge you, afraid that they'd minimize your pain, or maybe afraid that they'd walk away. Sometimes the hardest stories to tell are the ones that you need to tell the most. And today's guest is doing exactly that in the bravest, boldest way. Allison Burton, welcome, Allison.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you. Allison is someone who is courageously saying the things that so many people think, but rarely have the courage to say out loud. So, for nearly 2 decades, she's navigated the life as a military spouse. Let's give it up to you there because wow. Multiple moves, deployments, solo parenting. What drew me most to Allison wasn't simply her story, it's her willingness to challenge the narratives that we've been taught around resilience and strength and always having to have it all together. So, she is an author. She's writing a book that gives voices to the thoughts that so many people suppress, voices of resentment, grief, guilt, identity, and the question of who am I in the middle of all this? So today we're talking about what happens when life asks you more than you ever imagined and how to find your way back to yourself. So Allison, welcome to the Bring Your Big Energy podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't feel like I need to say anything. Like the intro was like, okay, we're done.
Oh my God, there's so much goodness. You have so much to share, and we're so excited. And actually, so that's where I'm going to start if you're here for it. Before I dive in, usually I go through the Spark process and we guide the questions around that way, as all of the listeners know and as you're familiar with. Every guest has what I call an intensity point. So that's a defining moment or a season that's forever changed the trajectory of your life. So looking back over the decades of this beautiful busy life you've created, what would you say about your intensity point, and talk us through how that story evolved and how it shaped you?
Well, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind, and this is also in my book as a starting point, if you will, because it 100% changed who I am on the inside. And probably on the outside too. It was unexpectedly losing my mom almost 5 years ago. So that's it. It broke me in many ways that I obviously wasn't expecting. My dad is still living. So that was definitely the point of, oh my God, what am I doing? And how do I move on? Not move on. How do I move through this? So yeah, that was definitely, it was crushing, emotionally, physically, psychologically, in my marriage, just me internally, it was awful. But now, thankfully, 5 years later, almost 5 years later, I can talk about it without, breaking down in public, which is a positive. I did a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of self-reflection. Turns out when you don't address the grief that you have, it's not really healthy. So, yeah, with my therapist, I was able to work through what she deemed as prolonged grief. And so, yeah, I've been able to work through my feelings and understand that they're okay. It's perfectly normal to grieve your mother and be mad at yourself for not flying back from Germany, because I was also in Germany at the time. So there was just a lot going on in my life outside of the death of my parents, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back, because I just completely fell apart. I was a shell of myself. And most people didn't know. I was very good at putting on the mask when I went outside and, entertained the general public, if you will, as in my neighbors. But my husband knew. He knew something was wrong. We've had these conversations since, and he didn't know what to do, and neither did I. You were talking about something you're afraid to admit out loud. I was definitely afraid to use the word depression. I was definitely afraid to look my husband in the eye and admit that I didn't really like him at that time. Like I absolutely did not. We were at the time better off in separate rooms than we were in the same room. After working through all of that, a lot of that was on me, and I fully own it. And I've said that to him many times. Anxiety and depression and grief will change how you feel and how you think. So once I've been able to get a handle on it, our marriage is definitely in a much better place. So that is the positive side. But yeah, that is probably the turning point. 100%.
So first of all, Allison, I just want to acknowledge like losing a parent. We all are going to go through it unfortunately, but it's got to be one of the hardest and the most crushing things. And I think that there's no blueprint, right? There's no thing that tells us how to guide it. And it's hard to go from being that very strong person that everyone knows and admit an identity that is a bit different in those moments. Like we might need someone to help us and take care of us. And so I'm so glad that you reached for someone to help you in therapy and also acknowledging that the relationship with our spouse can be very difficult through some of those hardest times. Like, I don't know if I very publicly said, but the first time I had cancer, it was one of the hardest times on our marriage you can ever imagine. Just because I think we didn't know what the roles were that were expected of us, because again, no blueprint. And so I think especially in the absence of our parents being our primary caregivers, now who's taking care of us in those hard moments. So talk us through then, if you're open to it, how that what worked for you in terms of tools to move into the life you're living now, and then also like try to weave in, if you will, this this identity also of being a military spouse and what that's looked like.
So, a little bit about what you said just a second ago. I was not a completely,
Mhm.
if you will. My husband had a very demanding job at the time. He was working 15 to 18 hours a day, which meant I'm the sole caregiver. I'm the default parent. I'm doing practices. I'm doing school. On top of that, it was COVID in Europe, which, if you aren't familiar, was hell on earth, if you will. I'm not going into details because it's not necessary right now, but it was very strict, very, very strict. So we were in our home for 2 years.
Mhm.
That's basically what it was.
Mhm.
So not only are we juggling the isolation from the pandemic, my husband was never home unless he was sleeping, and I couldn't fall apart. I could
Mhm.
cry myself to sleep, but then the next morning I had to get up and I had to get the kids going.
Do it again. Yeah.
So I had overly functional depression, if you will, because I was able to focus on, okay, get this done with the kids. And then this sounds so bad and but it's the truth. I would come home and sit in front of the television that wasn't even on for the next 6 to 8 hours. Like that's all I could do for months at a time. I wasn't attempting to do anything I did not have to do. So that was very difficult. The first person I reached out to was a counselor here where we live. And knowing what I know now, that person wasn't the best fit for me because they weren't trained specifically for what I was going through. However, giving them grace, that was the only option that I had. And so they became a safe space to verbal vomit, if you will, about, this is how I feel and blah, 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 all the things. So that was step one. When we moved back to the States, that was when I was able to find a full-time therapist. And with her help, God love her. She's changed my life. We had worked through so many things, and now I understand that I can feel multiple things at one time. I could, like, right now, my husband is gone again. So I can
Mhm.
be frustrated that he's gone and I'm here in a new country, not new to me, but new from the past 3 months. And I have nothing of ours, hence the white blank walls because we're in a temporary house. So yeah, it's a lot. I can be mad and I can miss him and love him all at the same time. But definitely it was hard having to look my husband in the face and be like, maybe you weren't the villain. Maybe I created the villain in my own head because anxiety and depression will do that to you.
Mhm.
I was the problem. I didn't know I was the problem, but turns out when anxiety is everywhere, everybody else is the problem because you don't realize that your shoulders are in your ears and everything is important and everything is on fire until it finally settles down and you're like, "Oh wow, I don't feel like my skin's too tight anymore." So
Yeah.
it's been a journey, but I'm very, very grateful that he and I can have open conversations and he's been 100% supportive. So that's definitely helps.
So what would you give advice to like people that are in that space right now or something similar that are listening or watching? What advice would you give them in helping them to work through it?
Honestly, being vulnerable is very difficult, and I will never say that it's easy. But if you can take that 15 to 30 seconds and be vulnerable, whether it's to your spouse, whether it's to your best friend, whether it's to a parent, a colleague, a therapist, we have online therapy now. We have all different types of therapy. If you are not someone who can go to an office, just say you're not okay.
Mm.
I feel like once I finally was like, "No, I'm not okay." Like, I absolutely have been holding this for way too long. I don't know how to put it down, so I would need somebody to help me put it down before something drastic happens. But I would definitely just encourage people, it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to share that. Whoever that person you can confide in is, even if you need to write it down in a journal first, just get it out of your head, say it out loud first, and then tell somebody, because it's strong. It's very strong to admit that you need some help because we're all dealing with things, various amounts of things, types of things, all the things,
Right. All the things.
all of the things.
Well, I think too, once you say it out loud, once you go to someone for help, whether it's a professional or a friend or a loved one, I think once you say it out loud, it becomes true and you can deal with it. And it does, I feel like it takes the power out of it, just being in your head, being this gigantic thing.
Yeah.
And then also there's an amount of aloneness that's
Mhm.
no longer happening, right? You're like,
Right.
"Oh, I'm maybe carrying this alongside someone else," and
Yeah.
that's why I love sharing the stories of people like you who are like, "Look, we're not alone. We all are." One of my guests said it, and she said it so well. She's like, "My bad might be worse and different than your bad, but not one is worse or better than the other. We
Right.
just have different kinds of hard or different
100.
kinds of bad. That's just all it is." And the
Yes.
more we can open up and share those pieces,
Yeah.
um, the more powerful it becomes and more united we become. So,
No.
let's talk a little bit about that. So that is one of the kind of the voyages that you're on is sharing what your experience has been like as a military spouse. Talk us through the book and talk us through what it is that you're sharing boldly.
Well, I decided about 14 months ago that I was going to write a book while my husband was deployed. I had a full-time job. I had a child in competitive sports, and I just got to the point where I was like, I don't care anymore. We're just going to do it. I blame it on wine. I don't know. You can't really blame it. I turned 40 and I just don't care. There's a lot of things that people are like, why now? I'm like, why not?
I think it's like a creative outlet though too, right? I mean, I just like started writing a novel the other night when I was like
Yes.
mad at the world and I was like, I'm writing a novel and what
I
am
was
I doing?
very much angry
Yes,
typing.
yes.
It started out very resentful, very angry, very frustrated, very damn the military situation. Like that was the mindset of I have to get all of this out, all of this at the time. It was like 17, 18, whatever, however many years, way too many years of
Yeah.
frustrations out onto this paper. And once I got it all out, I was like, okay, now I need to organize my thoughts. What else can I add to it? I didn't want to miss things. Well, I say then I didn't want to miss things. However, now I'm like, I can't cover everything. It would be an encyclopedia set at this point if I covered absolutely everything. Like that's not something people are going to stick around for. But yeah, it's a raw, real, unhinged account of what we actually deal with. It's the things that nobody wants to talk about. It's struggling with your mental health and walking outside and your neighbor thinking, are you okay? And you're like, no, actually, I'm not. I'm about to have a mental breakdown. It's the things that the media doesn't want you to know, if you will, about military spouse life. And I know that sounds a little strange, but if you pull back the curtain and you see how military spouses are actually treated versus how people are perceived that we are treated, it's vastly different. It's vastly different. We are considered a secondary character in our service member's story. And yet we are the ones that hold down the fort while they are off. So you can't really have your cake and eat it too. Are we important or are we not important? Because it's a major contradiction that is happening. And I talk about it. I talk about all the healthcare struggles, the childcare crisis the whole world is having a problem with childcare, but it's a big, huge problem in the military community. Housing issues. We've got people that have molds crawling up their walls and they're just painting over it and acting like it's not there anymore. We have homes in Hawaii that they have had jet fuel in their water because of accidents. Employment issues, underemployment, all the things. Resentment, isolation. There's a lot of things. However, I am very proud of the fact that although what I'm saying is some of it's difficult and it's heavy. Last thing I forgot, finances, the military salary situation. Anyway, I add a lot of humor to my book because that's who I am, and we have to have a little levity because this life is hard. That is something that I want to keep saying over and over. Like people don't understand that it's hard because we make it look easy. We're not trying to make it look easy. We are literally just doing what we have to do. And our hard seems like it's a lot bigger than other people's hard because we are asked to do a lot. We're asked to absorb way too much. And my hope is that any female can read this, any woman can read this book, any mom can read this book and probably resonate with a lot of it because we have mom guilt. We have, oh my gosh, I have a full-time job. I'm missing out on my kid's life. Well, my husband travels for work or whatever they do. And so you're like, oh, he's never here to help me. Like so many of the things resonate, but I just want people, spouses like myself, to feel seen and validated that this is hard. and
Yeah.
that's okay.
And it's such a brave account of your life and in the life that others likely share and are not talking about. So I guess I'm going to ask the question everyone's probably thinking is, why are you sharing now? Because he's still in the military. So a lot of times you'll hear like an ex president or an ex FBI. Then there's the
Yeah,
sharing, but
yeah,
he's actively still in the military. So how
yeah.
do you shore that up? And do you worry about any repercussions or anything that is happening that could happen there?
I've had this question once before, and it was I was on a veteran podcast, and the two gentlemen were absolutely hysterical, and they were like, what do you mean you're doing this?" Like, and someone there was a live stream, and someone wrote in, "What does his command say?" And I was like, respectfully, I don't care because I don't wear a uniform, so therefore don't owe the military anything. I'm not stating anything defamatory. I'm not dropping names about people that have done nasty things. I've talked about what has happened. There are no names, there are no locations. So unless people were specifically at that place and time and were involved, then they might know who I'm talking about. But I don't have anything to worry about because I don't have a contract behind my name. I didn't sign a dotted line. My husband is supportive of what I'm doing, and he's like, as long as it's factual and you're not throwing anybody under the bus, go for it.
Yeah.
He is actually, oddly enough, in the last few weeks that he's been gone, his boss has realized that I'm writing a book, and he laughs. So it is what it is. I talk about all stages, whether you're new in the military, whether you're seasoned like myself, or you're retired. So I cover the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, there will be people that have something to say, and that's fine. They're talking about it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's becoming a conversation that needs to be had
Yes.
probably. And
Yes.
so, yeah, I guess what is your goal for this?
My goodness. My goal, truthfully, is to have a seat at the table. And when I say that, it's a very specific scenario in my head. Most military spouses will immediately understand, but there is a proverbial table where political dignitaries, whether it be the Senate, the House, all the legal representation, all the people that make decisions that affect military spouses and their families, I want a seat at that table. Maybe
Right.
not me. It doesn't have to be me specifically. It needs to be someone else who's also an active duty spouse. Doesn't the service member, like whatever branch, doesn't matter. Someone who's actively living this lifestyle needs to be in that conversation because they don't ask what we need. They don't ask how we feel. They assume everything. And most of those people have never been a military spouse. They've never been in the military, period. So we deserve to be in that conversation. We deserve to have a say in what affects our life and our kids' lives. Like, why are you not consulting the people that you're making massive decisions about? So that is the goal, is to get us spouses a seat at the table.
Yes, I love that. A collective voice,
Hmm.
but also a feedback loop is what I'm hearing you say,
Yes. Yes.
which is
We're so unheard. There is a stigma around military spouses that if you make waves or you state that something is wrong publicly, that you'll be labeled as dramatic or ungrateful or, a loudmouth or whatever. And that causes many, many, many people to be quiet because they
yeah,
don't want to be the person that everybody's like, did you hear what she said? Can you
yeah.
believe she said that on Facebook? Well, yeah, I did. And my name is on it and my face is right next to it. So like, have at it because nothing I'm saying is wrong. People can have different opinion. Totally fine. I applaud that and I appreciate conversation. If somebody wants to say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" and challenge something, awesome. I love that. I'm not here to make everyone happy. That's not even possible. But yeah, it's been a fun journey this far. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
So what do you say to people, and I'm sure there's people out there that say this, and it's provocative, but
I
like,
know
"But
it is.
wait, you signed up for this, Allison."
I knew that was coming. I knew it was.
What? Like, but what do you say to that?
No, I didn't. I signed up to love my husband, not be the side piece to the military. Like, that
Yeah,
is the easiest answer. It may be kind of aggressive, and that's okay. However, when you've heard it for 20 years, it's very frustrating. You know what you signed up for. It's everywhere, and it's awful. I did not sign up to be a default parent 90% of the time our kids were alive. I did not sign up for not having consistent health care. I
yeah,
did not sign up for losing every job opportunity I've ever been given because we move every 2 years.
yeah,
My kids didn't sign up for being pulled from their home every 11 months.
yeah,
So those are things that we didn't sign up for. I signed up to love and honor my husband, which I
yeah,
do willingly.
yeah,
Very proud of him, and he knows that, but those are not things I signed up for.
yeah. It's so true. Does it ever feel like there's, like, 3 people in the marriage almost?
Yes, the amount of times that I have repeated the cliche of my husband married the military and like he is the military is like the girlfriend, I guess, but like I'm the wife and she's the girl. It's wild how many times we talk about it. I'm like, you can't say no. Like there's
Mhm.
legally he cannot say no when an order comes down for him to do something. Like it doesn't matter if I'm about to have a baby. It doesn't matter if I've had surgery on my spine. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. He has to pick up and go or else he gets arrested.
Yeah.
So I'm always in second place. And that's very hard to swallow. It's very, very hard to swallow. And not gonna lie, I'm ready for that to be over. It-
Yeah.
hopefully soon. We got a couple more years. But yeah, it's definitely it's difficult. However, I've learned through this writing process and having lots of conversations, hundreds of conversations with people that I may not be able to reverse the things that he has to do, but I can attempt, sometimes it's harder than others, to make the best of it because like right now, he is now gone and this was not on the radar. And we don't know when he'll be back. So that is something that we've had to adjust to very quickly in a foreign country. And it's hard. But I can say it's hard and not feel sorry about that.
Yeah.
I feel like we have to be able to accept that it's okay to need to sit down for a minute. That's okay.
Yeah.
I can have a day where I cry in bed and I read a book because I need to.
Yes, exactly. Allow yourself that time. Because I
Yes.
think too, it's like a normal job, you could quit your job if it's awful. I mean, no one wants to be quitting their job all the time, but if your
Yeah.
job really freaking sucks, you just quit your job. If it's a normal, like you just there's you can just move,
Yeah.
right? It sounds like there's so many elements that are sort of like these by law. I don't want to use the word trapped. I don't want to put that on you, but what does that feel like to not be able to have you don't have a lover necessarily, is
Don't.
what I guess I'm thinking through.
Yeah, no, you can use the word trap. That's okay. I mean, I don't take offense to it. It's difficult, knowing when I got married, I knew my husband what he was going to do. I was 25 when we got married,
Yeah.
which now I think I'm like, wow, I was a baby.
That is
I
a
was a
baby.
little tiny infant child,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you don't know what you're about to walk into. You're about to walk into a tornado and a hurricane and a tsunami all at the same time, depending on what your spouse does, depending on where you are, all the different things. And it's a hard pill to swallow when you're like, I have no say. And I spent way too long, over a decade, probably fighting with that of when is it my turn?
Yeah,
When is it my turn? When do I get a say? And
yeah,
again, going back to before I was able to self-reflect and get some help, it was always woe is me. Woe is
yeah,
me. It's your career. While that is still true, I was struggling with dealing with that fact. Like it's okay for me to feel that way. It's okay for me to be frustrated. But I also have to understand that I love him and therefore I will deal with it. It's not always a 5-minute fix. It's living with frustrations that you just have to accept or let go. I've learned to be able to let those things go because carrying them around every single day is exhausting. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm frustrated with the military right now, but if I'm letting that weigh me down day in and day out, all I'm doing is hurting myself.
yeah.
It's like giving poison to someone else. What is the saying about giving somebody poison and you're poisoning yourself?
No, like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
That's it. That's
I
it.
love, and I'm probably butchering it too because that's like my
Yeah.
one with
But you
grade.
you
But
get what
yeah,
I'm saying. Like,
that.
mhm.
Well, and something you said, I mean, all of the things you like so much wisdom, but one of the things that you said and that I wrote down is, and I think whether you're a military wife, whatever, if you are a mom out there listening, if you are a wife in general, when is it my turn? So many of us have been there. What is your advice to that?
Honestly, you have to make it your turn.
Mm,
You just have to decide, okay, it's my turn. And whether that's what I've chosen to do is work alongside him in this, I fit it in where I can get it in, if you will. I work, my children are older now, so I don't have to hover over them at all times. They can make their own lunches. They can bathe themselves, but I chose what was for me and what fills my cup. And that's speaking for other people. It's advocating for military families. And I'm doing it alongside. I had to figure out that the education that I have, the formal education that I have, just because I'm not doing that doesn't mean that what I'm experiencing and doing now doesn't matter. I
mm,
should not be tied to that degree or that master's or that whatever it is, that certification. It's hard to accept that, because you go into college with this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and here's my steps. And then you marry a soldier and you're like,
Oh,
"Oh,
that's
well,
out the way.
that's a lot of money that I lost because I'm not doing any of that right now." But lived experience still very much counts. So definitely make time for what it is you want to do.
Yeah, and one could argue the work you're doing now is way more revolutionary than potentially what your degree would have been.
Well, I appreciate that. I was supposed to be a physical education teacher.
Yeah.
So while that's very important,
Yes, exactly.
educators are very important. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
Yes, I feel much better doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked through, you said in the beginning of the show, which is a word that I love. I guess it's a hyphenated word, two words, self-reflection. It's the S in my spark process. It's one of the most important gifts we can give ourselves to really understand where we're at, what we're meant to be doing, to find our purpose, all of that. And then you talked a little bit about like this book was going to be like, what do I cover? What can I cover? How big can this? We're not writing War and Peace, right? So I included what was most important to. So,
Yeah.
if you think about that self reflection process and what is most important to cover, how did you come to what is most important to cover in this book and to get out there with your voice?
Geez. In the very beginning, I put out and I, mind you, I did not have a public page at this time. So this was me begging, my military spouse friends for information. I put out a anonymous Google form and I had various questions and people could type in answers also because it was, oh man, it's been so long. I don't even remember if I know the questions anymore. A major frustration if they could have a conversation with a policymaker, like what would they want to talk about, whether or not they retire, how many years they've been in a spouse. So if they were a newer spouse, a veteran, whatever. And I started with those things because I had a couple hundred people answer, which sounds like it. Now that I say it out loud, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. For your first sample size with an
Yeah.
anonymous form, girl,
At the
people
time,
wanted to talk to you. They
I was
wanted
like,
to tell you some things.
it's like, wow, I'm literally reflecting on that right now. I'm like,
Right.
why did you dismiss that? Like that.
Right. You
Anyway.
shouldn't. Powerful.
So yeah, I started with those things and many of them were repeated over and over. Childcare was repeated, employment was repeated, healthcare, mainly all the things that I cover were repeated. So I built on those because every single experience as a military spouse is different. It's like a thumbprint. Like everybody's different because depending on what your soldier does or service member does, your experience is going to be different. Or the places that you move are going to be different. The people that you meet are going to be different. So it's very hard to, it's apples and oranges and hammers. Like you can't compare two people ever. So there's no way I'm going to be able to cover absolutely everything. However, I mentioned a lot of things in a short section if I wasn't able to cover them in full, if that makes sense. For instance, I was made aware of foreign born spouses and the struggles that they have. I had no idea.
Mm.
I'm a white woman who was born in the States. Like, what do I know about a foreign born spouse's problems? Dealing with, passports. So dealing with all of those things and the issues that they are isolated even more because people may not speak their language. People may not
Mhm.
understand their culture. And while I embrace all cultures because I want to know all the things, I want to know how did this start and what does this mean? And what you eat this food on this day? Why? Can I taste it? I want to know all those things. I love learning about other cultures, but there are many spouses that they don't want that information and they look at them as if, why are you here? You sound funny.
Mhm. Mhm.
Kind of racist, just throwing it out there. But yeah, there's also EFMP. I know, sorry for the acronym. It's Exceptional Family Member Program.
Okay.
So if you have a spouse or a child, let's see, you can be on EFMP if someone is diabetic, if someone is on the autism spectrum, if they need special types of therapy like occupational therapy, consistent therapy, like for a disability of some sort. So those families have a huge hill to climb because not only are they moving all the time, they're trying to advocate for their child over and over and over, and too many times they have to start over. They'll get a really good therapy team together, and then 2 years later, the military says, you need to move, and then they have to start over, and the child regresses because they didn't have continuity in their care.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of nuances to what we do and the experiences. So I can't give voices to all, but I tried really hard to hit as many points as I could that make sense. I share many stories about myself in the book, some funny, some absolutely gut-wrenching. So I will warn people, like, you may be clutching your pearls at one point if you pick up my book. But I hope that it's a good thing. It's been a journey. It's been a labor of love for sure.
I love that. And somewhere along the line, your pain and all of these things you went through, and then the people on this forum went through, somewhere along the line, bringing that into your purpose of your writing this book. When did you realize this story wasn't just like something that you were going to have? And you even said to yourself, like, I was angrily writing it. When did you like come to this, like, this is now my purpose? This is what I'm meant to do. And I'm moving forward. This is just not for me anymore.
So I had a meeting not long after I started writing because I knew nothing about the literary space, publishing, editing, zero.
Yeah.
I
Same,
have
girl.
all, I I've always said I'm a better speaker than I am a writer. However, now I can challenge that, and I feel like they're about the same,
Yeah.
which is good. However, I asked to have a meeting with a marketing specialist within my editor agency. So I use an agency. It's called the Military Editor Agency. They are military spouses. It's military spouse owned and run, and all the things. They're absolutely amazing.
That's cool.
Yet my editor, her name is Brunella, and top tier, absolutely amazing person, amazing editor. But she set me up with a marketing person within their agency. And we got on the call, mind you, again, I know nothing, absolutely nothing. I had just decided to start writing this book, and I was very hungry for all the knowledge I could get. And she said, I Googled you. And I was like, well, I figured you would, because in the form that she sent me, like, I had to put my social media on there. And I was like, it's not a problem. And she goes, but I can't see anything. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm a military. Everything is private because I don't need people getting in my business. And
Right.
she's like, but if you want to write a book, you need to have a public page. And I was like, well, look at
People
there.
gonna be in your business, girl. Tell me.
Did not,
Take it
did
from
not
me, people
even,
are in your business.
did not even cross my mind, which are
Yeah.
we shocked? No.
Yeah.
So that afternoon, I created my public pages and I tried to figure out what I was going to start sharing. Now, it didn't take long at all, though, truthfully, for me to find that voice of my tagline is because someone has to say it. And I just started writing the things down. This is how a lot of spouses feel. And again, I'm not going to hit everybody, but I hit a lot of people, and that's wonderful. But it was a eye-opening experience when I started posting things and people were like, "Oh my God, you feel that too?" Like, same. And they're
Yeah.
sharing it and they're tagging their friends and they're, all this stuff. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, that was when I knew, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because the amount of private messages and emails and LinkedIn messages and all the things that I've received of, I'm really glad that you wrote that, because now I know what resentment is, or I know that it's okay to feel this way. Or, I thought I was the only one. That's a big one that I hear.
Yeah.
But it's fuel to my flame, because these people they're trusting that I'm going to say the hard thing.
Yeah.
And it's been great. Nothing but support, thankfully.
Well, it sounds like there's been nothing but support from people engaging with your page. The minute you put it out there, you're feeling like this beautiful, like, homecoming almost, of
Yeah.
people being like, yeah. And I love that your tagline is because someone has to say it. Like I said,
Yeah.
did not realize that. I love that. That's what we're going to name the pod now, because it's so
Yeah.
good. So good. So with that though, and one of the things I admire the most about you is your willingness to actually challenge the stories that we've been told. And I think the first time that you and I talked, you painted this picture of, like, we're watching whatever news we consume. And on that network, they're showing the soldier coming home and the hugs and the beautiful children and the gorgeous like, everyone's perfect and it's so happy. And you're like, but wait, there's all of this behind the scenes that's happening
Mhm.
this whole time, which is
Mhm.
not a story that's being told. So when I think about stories being told and the bravery to tell them, a lot of times we have to and this is the A in my spark process, is we have to abandon other people's opinions of us. We have to abandon and kind of blow apart beliefs, expectations, or identities that people have of who we're supposed to be as a military spouse. So for you, like, what did you have to let go of? What did you have to abandon in the work that you were doing?
Had to abandon the fact that I to care about what other people thought. Mind you, I haven't really thought that much about it most of my life. However, through therapy and through turning 40, it's amazing what happens when you do that.
Yeah.
It's basically like, and I now own a sweatshirt that says this: if I'm too much, go find less.
Right. I love it. I love it.
Because I'm okay if I'm not your person. I'm totally fine with that. You have every
Yes.
right to be like, you're too much for me. cool. I respect your choice. But I had to basically be okay with that. Not everybody, I never thought I was going to make everybody happy. Absolutely not. Because there's a lot of women in the military spouse community, and there's a lot of arguing going on because there's a lot of hormones and there's a lot of opinions and that's okay. We are the way we are because we are very diverse. And I love that. Sometimes it comes at a cost because people like to argue and there's a lot of drama sometimes. But I definitely had to abandon the fact that somebody's going to get mad and I'm going to really piss some people off. And I'm okay with that
Yeah. And
because
you're right. It is an evolution.
yeah, like I've finally been able to be like, nope, I'm good. That's on you to carry, not me. Like I don't have to, I'm not responsible for other people's feelings. That's a big one that I had to be able to learn in therapy is the way other people feel about me and the way
Yes.
other people feel about whatever it is, it's not my problem.
So how do we do that? I mean, that anyone on listening wants to know that. Like my sister-in-law, ex-sister-in-law, best friend. It's complicated. Facebook would say it's complicated. We were just talking about like the evolution of like we don't have to carry if the person we went to the movie with likes the movie. We don't have to care if they have a good time. Like it's really freaking hard though to not care about if the people that are in your orbit that you actually care about. Forget the people we don't.
Yeah.
The haters be haters, right? But like it's really hard to be like, look, parent, look, sibling, you might disagree with this, but that's all right. Cause like I don't need to be responsible for your happiness. All that to be said, what tricks of the trade or what has helped you in therapy to do that? Cause that's a gift for anyone.
My gosh. I feel like she had to beat it over my head. Like,
Mm,
because I have always, excuse me, I've always had the mindset of don't rock the boat. It was how I was raised.
yes.
And I'm going to use a word, maybe a trigger word for people, but it's the only word I have. But military spouses are conditioned to act
Mhm,
a certain way.
mhm.
When we become a military spouse, depending on who you are around, you could hear anything from someone like me being like, "This is hard, and you have a safe space to come and vent to me. I don't care who you are, what rank your soldier is. Like I am welcoming to all." And if you need to cry on my shoulder, too easy. I got you. Like I will hold your baby while you go take a shower and cry. Like I got you. But you also have a generation of spouses that you will stand there and you will stand still and you will be quiet and you will have your pearls on and you will not make a wave. You will not speak in opposition of anything. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. And I came up in the time of I was handed, I don't have it yet because our stuff isn't here, the military wife handbook.
Okay.
You should Google that. It's very interesting. It's not something that I would ever give to anyone at this point. But yes, we are definitely conditioned. We are praised when we are compliant, and it is something that I'm trying really hard to break
Yeah.
because spouses, women specifically, we need the permission. So if someone hearing this or seeing this needs the permission, this is me giving you the permission to take up space and have a voice because there's no one that can take that from you. And especially if you were in my generation, I'm a millennial. We were taught that being compliant and agreeable is what was necessary, and you got praise for that. Oh, don't children to be seen, not to be heard. That
Yes.
statement. It's hard to swallow. It doesn't have a hold on me anymore. It was definitely hard to let go of. But if you can get to that place, it's so freeing because I'm like, I used to carry around that frustration or that like, she's mad. He's mad at me. I don't care.
And you can't control other people.
Nope.
You can only control your reaction to them.
Yes.
Or the
Yes.
way that you live beside them or with them or whatever.
Yes.
Yes, that's
If they are
absolutely
if they are not financing what I'm doing,
yeah,
I don't care.
yeah.
That's on you. Not my circus, not my
Yeah.
monkey.
I love that. It's so true. So, okay, so we talk about, and I know we don't have a ton of time left, but I want to make sure that I get through a couple more things. And one is results. So we think about in the Spark process, are is results? Like how are we measuring? And so I would love to understand from you. I've got to imagine that results equal success. How has your version of success for your life changed throughout the years? And what does success look like now?
Feel like success when I first got married was getting a job.
Real.
I
Yeah.
landing a paid job was success because it's not that easy when you're a military spouse. So that was probably the first, goal of success. Then I felt successful when I had children because I'd always wanted to have kids. I don't know how often my goal has changed because I feel like there's been so many versions of it. But now the goal, it was have my book in my hand. That was the goal. However, the goalpost has now moved because I moved it, and I don't yet know where it moved to, but it moved further away, and that's totally fine because I needed it to. I don't know if it's a Burton collective type of situation of a business where I have lots of different things under the umbrella. I don't know if it's keynote speaking as a career. I don't know yet what that is. A podcast because I love to talk. Clearly, I don't know what that is yet, but I'm giving myself time to figure it out and to let the universe, if you will, show me the way. I really, truly, down to my core, love advocating for people. I don't know if you know anything about the Enneagram, but
Yes.
I'm an 8, so I question all the things. I'm like, what do you mean this person who can't speak up for themselves is being taken advantage of? Like I don't do.
Yeah.
I can't do that. So I'm very much of an 8 through and through. I want to help the little guy. I want to make a difference. So we'll see where that leads me. I don't really know, but one day soon, maybe I'll know.
I can't wait to have you back in a year from now and be like, "Where are we at?" Because I was picturing you said you wanted the book in your hands, but then I was
Mm.
picturing the book in lots of hands, and then I was picturing the book at a little conference table with a tiny little megaphone, and then I was picturing you on a stage with all these people, like, inspiring and motivating and, like, having a voice, because someone needs to say it, as you said.
Yes.
So
Look.
all right, so we're gonna end out here with the K in kinetic energy, which is all about collectively sharing wisdom and through connection. And there are people listening who are carrying something heavy right now, and maybe it's not deployment, but maybe it's grief or it's burnout, or maybe it's a husband that travels a ton, like you said. It's single parenting, it's solo parenting, caregiving, loss, or simply feeling alone. What is the piece of wisdom that you've earned that you hope they remember tomorrow morning?
I think the first thing I would say is you're not alone. Despite the fact that you may feel alone, you're not alone. There's somebody else probably closer to you than you think that is also dealing with something very similar, if not the same thing. So that to me is very important because being isolated and being alone is dangerous. That's
Mhm.
really the biggest word that I can use, is dangerous. Also, something I want people to remember, man, that's hard. You have a voice and no one can take it away from you. I guess
Mhm.
would probably be the next thing. Don't let anyone take it from you. I feel like our generation, especially, we're raising our children, especially our girls, to be loud and proud and 100%. Don't take things from anybody. So yeah, I would definitely say you don't let anybody take your voice from you. And if they are, you need to find somewhere else to be.
Yes, that's so good, because what a sad world if we're not using our voices. What a sad world. What a scary world, actually.
Yeah, and it does something to your brain chemistry and to you internally when you consistently have your mic turned off, if you will. Forgive the
Mhm.
pun.
Yeah.
Because I lived that way and have lived that way for a very long time. And so now I'm like, you know what, we're gonna turn it up to 12
I
and we're
love
just
that.
gonna scream it into the void. And when people start listening, awesome. And they are. They're starting to listen, which is amazing. So I encourage everyone, especially a female. It doesn't matter what you do, but if you need that microphone, please let me hand it to you. Like I will gladly hand it to you. Here it
Right.
is. Like if you need permission, here it is. Because a
Yep.
lot of us need that permission. They need somebody to be like, you know what? It's okay that you didn't cook dinner tonight. You fed your family. It doesn't matter if it was leftovers.
Right.
They're
Right.
safe. They're fed. So yeah, that is turn the mic up.
Turn the mic up, and audience, get your hearts ready. Like, that's what I'm hearing too. Like, get your hearts ready because it's about to come. Okay, Allison, where can people find out about you? Remind us of the name of your book, all the things so that people can reach out and experience more Allison Burton.
So my website is allisonburton.co. So just my name, traditional way of spelling Allison, Allison, Burton, Burton.co. Everything that people need to find or would like to find is most likely on my website. All my social media is linked there. My email is at the bottom of the page. There's information about my book. I do have a Kickstarter campaign going right now that is linked there as well. So I also tell everyone that I speak to that if you need a safe space, whether you need to vent, whether you need to cry, whether you need to cuss at me. I don't care. My inbox is always open. Yeah, it doesn't matter if we've known each other never or we've known each other for 20 years. I want people to know that they are a safe. I'm not going to judge you. It's a safe space. And you could say, I don't need you to answer. I just need to get it out. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's everything is there. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, but again, all those are linked on my website. So that is definitely the best place to go if they want to find me.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then what and I'll put everything in the show notes. And then what is the name of your book and when does it come out?
Silent ranks, loud burdens. When does it come out is a really good question. Hopefully by the end of 2026.
Okay. Okay.
Latest would be early 2027 because I am this close to having my manuscript done to where I can get it to publishers. So it takes time. Ugh, everything takes time.
It does. It
And I'm
does.
an impatient person. Like it is very difficult when I had one of my first editing meetings and she was like, that's like a 15 to 18-month process. And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like I can't.
Yeah.
It's been a very good exercise in patience for me. But yeah, that hopefully sooner, but no later than like January 2027.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think I read it in the John Maxwell book, who I love, 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 love. He's like a leadership, like
Mhm.
God, like legend. But he said everything that you want in life takes 2 times as much time and 2 times as much money as you think it's going to take, and that is so true. So,
Yes.
as someone that's gone through the process, not in that for Bring Your Big Energy, getting that published, getting the audiobook published,
Ugh.
girl, it is a journey. But listen, it's going to be worth it to have your voice out there because the world
Thank you.
needs it. So thank you so much, not just for sharing your story, but for giving people permission to tell the truth about theirs. And one more thing, one of the things that I admire most about you is your willingness to trade perfection for honesty. And I think that's where the real healing begins. And I think that's what people need to hear. So for everyone listening, if today's conversation reminded you that you're not alone, please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. They don't have to be necessarily a military spouse. It probably will hit different if they are. But please share this episode because there's so much greatness for anyone wondering if it's their turn, which is a big thing that we uncovered today is when is it my turn? Or if they're wondering if they need to be the person that needs to say it out loud because it needs to be said. So thank you so much, Allison. It's been a sheer pleasure. I hope all the listeners are able to get your book when it comes out and see you on stages everywhere.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.